Imagine, for a moment, that you have been transported back more than 3,000 years into the past. The modern world has disappeared. There are no smartphones. No electricity. No running water. No air conditioning. No comfortable beds. No glowing streetlights piercing the darkness. Instead, you find yourself in ancient Egypt, one of the most remarkable civilizations in human history. As your eyes slowly open, the first thing you notice is the darkness. The sun has not yet risen above the horizon. A faint blue glow hangs over the eastern sky, signaling the arrival of dawn. The air is cooler than it will be later in the day, offering a brief period of comfort before the desert heat begins its daily assault. You are lying on a simple woven mat placed directly on the floor. There is no mattress beneath you. No soft blanket. No fluffy pillow supporting your head. The floor is hard and unforgiving. Your back aches slightly from the unfamiliar sleeping conditions. Around you, other members of your household are beginning to stir. The room is small. The walls are constructed from mud bricks made by mixing clay, mud, and straw before baking them beneath the Egyptian sun. These homes are practical rather than beautiful. They are designed to keep out the worst of the heat while providing shelter from the occasional storms that sweep across the landscape. For most Egyptians, luxury is a concept they will never experience. The vast majority of people are not pharaohs, priests, or wealthy nobles. They are farmers, laborers, craftsmen, fishermen, and servants. Their homes reflect their status. A typical house consists of only a few rooms. Several generations may live together beneath the same roof. Parents, children, grandparents, and relatives share limited space. Privacy is almost non-existent. As you sit up, the sounds of the village begin to reach your ears. A donkey brays somewhere outside. Dogs bark in the distance. Roosters announce the coming day. People move about quietly as they prepare for another long day of work. Unlike modern life, where alarms force people awake at different times, ancient Egypt operates according to the rhythm of the sun. The day begins when the sun rises. The day ends when darkness falls. You step outside into the cool morning air. The village is already coming to life. Women kneel beside grinding stones, preparing grain that will become bread later in the day. Children carry water jars nearly as large as themselves. Men gather tools and discuss the tasks awaiting them in the fields. The smell of smoke drifts through the air as cooking fires are lit. Breakfast, if it can be called that, is simple. There are no stacks of pancakes. No bowls of cereal. No coffee brewing in the kitchen. Most people begin the day with bread and beer. To modern ears, beer may seem like a strange way to start the morning. But Egyptian beer is very different from the alcoholic beverages many people know today. It is thick, nutritious, and often safer to drink than untreated water. Bread and beer form the foundation of the Egyptian diet. Rich or poor, nearly everyone consumes them daily. As the eastern sky grows brighter, you begin to notice your surroundings more clearly. The village consists of rows of mud brick homes clustered together for protection and community. Narrow paths wind between buildings. Chickens wander freely. Goats search for scraps of food. Beyond the village lies a site that explains why Egypt exists at all. The Nile River. Its waters reflect the first golden rays of sunlight. For thousands of years, this river has sustained life in an otherwise harsh environment. Without it, Egypt would be little more than desert. Farmers depend upon it. Merchants depend upon it. Entire cities depend upon it. And if you hope to survive here, you will depend upon it as well. As the sun climbs higher, the temperature begins to rise. The coolness of dawn disappears quickly. This is one of the first challenges a modern visitor would face. In the 21st century, escaping heat is relatively easy. We step into air-conditioned buildings. We drive climate-controlled vehicles. We carry cold drinks and wear lightweight clothing designed for comfort. Ancient Egyptians have none of these luxuries. The sun dominates every aspect of life. People learn to work with the climate rather than against it. Homes are designed to provide shade. Daily routines are adjusted to avoid the worst heat whenever possible. Yet there is no escaping it completely. By midday, temperatures can become overwhelming. For someone unaccustomed to such conditions, dehydration and exhaustion become very real dangers. But the heat is only one of many hardships awaiting you. Even basic hygiene presents challenges. There are no modern bathrooms. No plumbing systems. No hot showers. Water must be collected manually and used carefully. Many Egyptians make great efforts to remain clean, especially compared to other ancient civilizations, but cleanliness requires time and labor. Simple tasks that modern people complete in seconds can consume large portions of the day. Need water? You fetch it yourself. Need food? You help prepare it. Need clothing? Someone must weave the fabric by hand. Life moves at a slower pace, but it also demands far more effort. As morning continues, the village grows busier. Farmers leave for the fields. Fishermen prepare their boats. Craftsmen begin their work. Children assist their families with chores. Everyone has responsibilities. Everyone contributes. Survival depends upon cooperation and labor. For a modern person, this constant activity can feel exhausting. There is little time for leisure. Little time for entertainment. Every day revolves around the necessities of life. Food. Water. Shelter. Work. And unlike today, there is very little safety net if something goes wrong. A poor harvest can mean hunger. An injury can mean disaster. An illness can become fatal. The comforts and protections of the modern world have vanished. As you stand beside the village and watch the morning unfold, you begin to understand an important truth. Ancient Egypt is both magnificent and unforgiving. Its monuments may one day inspire awe across the world. Its pharaohs may become legends. Its achievements may endure for thousands of years. But for the ordinary people who live here, daily life is a struggle requiring resilience, endurance, and hard work. And you've only been here for a few hours. 6 more days remain. If waking up in ancient Egypt is this challenging, surviving an entire week may prove far more difficult than you imagined. And to understand why, we must next journey to the source of Egypt's life itself. The mighty Nile River. As the morning sun continues its steady climb into the sky, your attention is drawn toward the feature that defines all of ancient Egypt. The Nile River. From where you stand, its waters shimmer beneath the growing light. Gentle waves ripple across the surface as small fishing boats drift along the current. Birds circle overhead, searching for food among the reeds that line the riverbanks. At first glance, the Nile appears peaceful. Beautiful, even. But appearances can be deceiving. To understand ancient Egypt, you must first understand the Nile, because without it, none of this would exist. The villages. The cities. The temples. The pyramids. The pharaohs. Everything depends upon this river. Ancient Greek historian Herodotus famously described Egypt as the gift of the Nile, and as you observe the landscape around you, it is easy to understand why. Beyond the fertile riverbanks lies an endless sea of desert. The golden sand stretched toward the horizon in every direction. Rain falls rarely here. Without a reliable source of water, agriculture would be impossible. Yet along the Nile, life flourishes. Fields of grain sway gently in the breeze. Palm trees dot the landscape. Villages thrive. People gather, trade, work, and build their lives around the river. The Nile is more than a river. It is the beating heart of an entire civilization. For thousands of years, Egyptians have depended upon its annual flooding cycle. Each summer, heavy rains far to the south cause the river to swell. The water rises and spills across surrounding lands, covering fields with nutrient-rich silt. When the floodwaters eventually retreat, they leave behind dark, fertile soil. This soil is a gift. It allows crops to grow year after year. Without it, widespread farming would be impossible. As a modern visitor, you might find this relationship with nature unsettling. Today, people often expect control. We build dams. We monitor weather forecasts. We rely on advanced technology to manage agricultural production. Ancient Egyptians possessed none of these tools. Instead, they live at the mercy of the river. A successful flood means abundance. A poor flood means uncertainty. A disastrous flood can bring suffering. Imagine the anxiety this creates. Every year, entire communities wait to see what the Nile will bring. Will the waters rise enough? Will crops grow successfully? Will there be enough food for everyone? The future depends upon forces beyond human control. For a modern person accustomed to predictable food supplies, this uncertainty would be difficult to accept. As you walk closer to the riverbank, you notice the constant activity surrounding the water. Women fill clay jars with water for cooking and cleaning. Children help carry supplies back to their homes. Fishermen cast nets into the river, hoping to catch fish that will feed their families. Merchants load goods onto boats destined for distant settlements. The Nile serves as ancient Egypt's highway. Travel by land is often slow and difficult. The desert presents countless obstacles. But the river provides an efficient route connecting communities throughout the kingdom. Boats glide north and south, carrying grain, stone, livestock, and people. Messages travel along its waters. Trade flourishes because of it. In many ways, the Nile functions much like a modern transportation network. Without it, communication between regions would become far more difficult. As fascinating as the river may be, it also presents serious dangers. The first danger is one you cannot easily see. Disease. Modern water treatment facilities remove harmful bacteria and parasites before water reaches your home. Ancient Egyptians have no such systems. People drink from the Nile. They bathe in it. They wash clothing within it. Animals enter the water as well. The river sustains life, but it also creates opportunities for illness. Parasites thrive in these conditions. Waterborne diseases spread silently. Many Egyptians suffer from infections they do not fully understand. To them, sickness often appears mysterious. A healthy person may become ill without warning. A child may develop a fever. A worker may weaken unexpectedly. The Nile gives life, but it also carries hidden dangers. Then there are the dangers that everyone can see. The animals. Farther downstream, a fisherman points nervously toward a disturbance in the water. For a brief moment, you catch sight of a long, dark shape beneath the surface. A crocodile. Nile crocodiles are among the largest reptiles in the world. Ancient Egyptians both fear and respect them. A crocodile can remain nearly invisible before launching a sudden attack. For anyone working near the river, caution is essential. Children learn these dangers from an early age. Adults remain alert whenever they approach the water. Yet crocodiles are not the only threat. The Nile is also home to hippopotamuses. To many modern people, hippos appear almost comical. Their large bodies and rounded faces make them seem harmless. The reality is very different. Hippos are incredibly aggressive animals. They can move surprisingly fast and fiercely defend their territory. Ancient farmers often considered them a serious menace. A single hippo could destroy crops in a matter of hours. Confronting one could be fatal. As the day progresses, you begin to understand that life along the Nile requires constant awareness. The river provides water, food, transportation, and fertile land. But it demands respect. One careless mistake can have severe consequences. A slip while collecting water. An unexpected animal encounter. A contaminated drink. Any of these events could turn an ordinary day into a dangerous one. And yet, despite all these risks, people continue returning to the river. They have no choice. The Nile is not merely part of life. It is life. Without it, ancient Egypt would disappear. The villages would vanish. The fields would wither. The cities would crumble. Everything depends upon the river's continued generosity. As afternoon approaches, fishermen return with their catches. Farmers work nearby fields nourished by the floodwaters. Boats continue moving along the current. The Nile remains as busy as ever. Watching this activity, you begin to appreciate the extraordinary balance that defines ancient Egyptian existence. The river is both protector and threat. Provider and destroyer. Blessing and danger. For thousands of years, Egyptians have learned to live with this contradiction. A modern visitor, however, might find the adjustment far more difficult. And while the Nile determines whether crops grow, another challenge determines whether people have enough to eat. Food. Because what ancient Egyptians ate, and what they often went without, would surprise many modern people. After spending the morning beside the Nile, watching boats drift across its waters and farmers work the fertile riverbanks, another question begins to enter your mind. What do people actually eat here? For most modern people, food is something easily taken for granted. If you're hungry, you open a refrigerator. You stop by a grocery store. You order a meal from a restaurant. Thousands of choices are available at almost any moment. Ancient Egyptians lived in a very different world. Food was not simply a convenience. It was survival. Every meal depended upon successful harvests, hard work, and the generosity of the Nile. As the afternoon sun shines over the village, you notice a woman kneeling beside a large grinding stone. Her movements are repetitive and practiced. She pushes grain against the stone again and again, slowly transforming it into flour. This is one of the most important jobs in ancient Egypt. Because nearly every meal begins with bread. Bread is everywhere. Rich families eat bread. Poor families eat bread. Workers receive bread as payment. Travelers carry bread during long journeys. It is the foundation of Egyptian life. Unlike the soft loaves found in modern supermarkets, Egyptian bread is often coarse and dense. Making it requires tremendous effort. First, grain must be grown in the fields. Then harvested by hand. Then dried. Then ground into flour. Then mixed into dough. Then baked in clay ovens. Every step demands labor. Every loaf represents hours of work. And there is another problem. The grinding process frequently mixes tiny fragments of stone into the flour. At first, this seems insignificant. But year after year, meal after meal, those tiny particles slowly wear away people's teeth. Archaeologists studying Egyptian remains often discover severe dental damage. Many adults likely lived with constant tooth pain. Imagine having a painful cavity. Now imagine living with it for years. There are no dentists. No fillings. No root canals. No painkillers. Only discomfort. And yet, bread remains essential. Without it, survival becomes impossible. Nearby, large clay jars sit in the shade. Inside them is another staple of the Egyptian diet. Beer. To modern ears, the idea of drinking beer throughout the day may sound strange. But Egyptian beer bears little resemblance to the beverages found in modern bars. It is thick, nutritious, low in alcohol, and often safer to drink than untreated water. Beer provides calories, hydration, and nutrients. Adults consume it. Children consume it. Workers depend upon it. Some laborers are even paid partly in bread and beer. For many Egyptians, these two foods form the majority of daily nutrition. As you walk through the village, the smells of cooking drift through the air. You notice onions hanging from doorways. Garlic drying in bundles. Baskets filled with dates and figs. These foods help add variety to meals. Onions are especially popular. Ancient Egyptians believed they provide strength and health. Workers building monuments often consume large quantities of onions and garlic. Whether these foods truly improve strength is difficult to know. But they certainly provide valuable nutrients. Fish is another important source of food. The Nile teems with life. Fishermen cast nets daily, bringing home catches that help feed their communities. Some fish are eaten fresh. Others are dried and preserved. For many families, fish provides a rare source of protein. Meat, however, is far less common than many modern people might expect. When people imagine ancient Egypt, they often picture grand feasts served to pharaohs. And indeed, wealthy Egyptians enjoy impressive meals. Beef, duck, goose, lamb, wine, honey, fine fruits. Exotic foods imported from distant regions. The rich eat very differently from the poor. Most ordinary Egyptians rarely consume meat. Livestock is valuable. Animals represent wealth. Slaughtering them for food is not an everyday occurrence. Instead, meat is often reserved for religious festivals, celebrations, or special occasions. For the average farmer, bread, vegetables, and beer remain the primary diet. If you suddenly found yourself living here, one of the first things you would notice is the lack of variety. There are no supermarkets filled with options. No international cuisine. No snacks waiting in a cupboard. Meals repeat themselves day after day. Week after week. Year after year. At first, the food might seem interesting. Even enjoyable. But eventually, many modern people would begin craving the diversity they are accustomed to. There is another challenge as well. Food security. Today, if a local harvest fails, food can often be transported from elsewhere. Ancient Egyptians possessed no such luxury. Their survival depends heavily on local agriculture. Everything begins with the Nile. A strong flood produces fertile fields and abundant harvests. A weak flood can create serious problems. When crops fail, food becomes scarce. Prices rise. Families struggle. Hunger spreads. History records periods when poor flooding contributed to famine throughout Egypt. For ordinary people, these years are terrifying. Parents worry about feeding children. Workers grow weaker. Entire communities face uncertainty. The threat of hunger is never far away. Even during successful years, food requires careful management. Grain is stored in large granaries. Officials monitor supplies. Households preserve what they can. Waste is dangerous. Every loaf of bread matters. Every basket of grain matters. The margin between comfort and hardship is often much smaller than in the modern world. As evening approaches, families gather for their final meal of the day. Children sit beside parents. Neighbors share conversation. Cooking fires flicker softly beneath the fading sunlight. Despite the challenges of life, moments of warmth and community still exist. People laugh. Stories are told. Friendships endure. The simple act of sharing food helps strengthen social bonds. In many ways, this part of human life has remained unchanged across thousands of years. People still gather together. They still celebrate meals. They still find comfort in the company of others. Yet beneath these peaceful scenes lies a constant reality. Food is never guaranteed. Every harvest depends upon nature. Every meal depends upon labor. Every family lives with the knowledge that difficult times may arrive without warning. As darkness settles over the Nile Valley, you begin to realize something important. Ancient Egyptians were remarkably resilient. They survived in an environment that demanded hard work, patience, and adaptability. But for a modern visitor, adjusting to this world would be difficult. The food is simpler. The risks are greater. The uncertainty is constant. And tomorrow brings another challenge that many people would find even harder to endure. Work. Because in ancient Egypt, survival is not determined only by what you eat. It is determined by how much you are willing, and able, to labor beneath the relentless Egyptian sun. As the first light of dawn spreads across the Nile Valley once again, the village slowly awakens. The cool air of morning lingers briefly, offering a small window of comfort before the heat of the day arrives. Around you, people are already beginning their routines. There is no rushing alarm clock, no morning commute, and no crowded highways. Yet despite the absence of modern pressures, life in ancient Egypt is anything but easy. In fact, for many modern people, the hardest part of surviving ancient Egypt would not be the heat, the food, or even the disease. It would be the work. In the modern world, many jobs are performed indoors. Machines handle much of the heavy lifting. Computers complete calculations in seconds. A large portion of the population spends their workdays sitting. Ancient Egyptians lived in a completely different reality. Nearly every task required physical effort. Every building, every field, every road, every boat, every loaf of bread. Everything depended upon human labor. Imagine stepping outside your home just after sunrise. The sky glows with shades of orange and gold. The Nile reflects the morning light as birds fly low across the water. It is beautiful. But there is little time to admire the scenery. Work awaits. For most Egyptians, that work begins in the fields. Agriculture forms the backbone of society. Without farmers, there would be no food. Without food, civilization would collapse. As you walk toward the farmland, you see workers already gathering. Some carry wooden hoes. Others transport baskets woven from reeds. Everyone has a task to perform. The fields stretch out before you, nourished by the annual floods of the Nile. Today, there are weeds to remove. Tomorrow, there may be seeds to plant. Later, canals will need repairs. Eventually, crops must be harvested. The work never truly ends. Unlike modern farming, which relies heavily on machinery, nearly every agricultural task in ancient Egypt is completed by hand. Workers bend for hours beneath the sun. They dig. They carry. They lift. They haul. Again and again. Day after day. At first, you might feel capable of keeping up. After all, the task seems simple. But simplicity does not mean ease. By mid-morning, your shoulders begin to ache. Your hands feel sore. The muscles in your back grow tight from constant bending and lifting. Meanwhile, the people around you continue working with practiced efficiency. They have spent their entire lives performing these tasks. Their bodies have adapted. Yours has not. For a modern visitor, the physical demands would quickly become overwhelming. And farming is only one form of labor. Throughout ancient Egypt, countless other jobs require similar levels of effort. Nearby, construction workers are building a new structure. Perhaps it is a storage building. Perhaps a temple. Perhaps a government project commissioned by local officials. Whatever the purpose, the work is exhausting. Large stones must be transported manually. Wooden beams must be lifted into place. Mud bricks must be molded, carried, and stacked. Without cranes, forklifts, or power tools, every stage of construction relies upon human strength. Even relatively small buildings demand tremendous effort. Now imagine the construction of Egypt's great monuments. The temples. The tombs. The colossal statues. The structures that will survive for thousands of years. Every stone must be quarried. Every block must be moved. Every surface must be shaped and carved. Thousands of workers contribute to these projects. The achievements are extraordinary. But so is the labor required to create them. As the morning continues, you notice another important detail. Children are working too. Not because they are being punished. Not because they have been forced into unusual circumstances. But because this is simply how life functions. In ancient Egypt, every member of the household contributes. Young boys assist in the fields. They help care for animals. They carry supplies. They learn the skills they will need as adults. Young girls help prepare food. They collect water. They assist with weaving and household tasks. Childhood exists, but it looks very different from what most modern people imagine. Responsibility begins early. Survival depends upon cooperation. There is little room for idleness. As the sun climbs higher, the temperature rises. Sweat begins to cover your skin. The ground beneath your feet grows hotter. The shade becomes increasingly appealing. Yet the work continues. There are no scheduled coffee breaks. No air-conditioned offices waiting nearby. People rest when possible, but tasks must still be completed. Food must be produced. Buildings must be maintained. Goods must be transported. Life cannot simply pause because conditions are uncomfortable. This reality would come as a shock to many modern visitors. Today, countless conveniences save us time and energy. A washing machine cleans clothing. A vehicle transports us across long distances. A refrigerator preserves food. Ancient Egyptians possessed none of these luxuries. Every task consumes effort. Even obtaining water can require significant labor. Imagine carrying large clay jars from the Nile back to your home. The weight presses against your arms and shoulders. The journey must be repeated multiple times. And tomorrow, you will need to do it again. Simple chores become demanding physical activities. Over time, this constant workload shapes society. People develop strength and endurance because they must. Their survival depends upon it. Those who cannot work often rely heavily upon family support. There is no social safety net. No disability benefits. No retirement pensions. A person's ability to contribute matters greatly. In many ways, ancient Egypt is a world where physical capability directly influences survival. As afternoon arrives, the pace finally begins to slow. Workers seek brief moments of shade. Some rest beneath trees. Others gather near structures offering protection from the sun. Conversations fill the air. People share news. They discuss harvests, weather, and family matters. Even during difficult days, community remains important. The people around you understand hardship because they experience it together. That shared experience creates strong bonds. Yet as the day continues, one thing becomes increasingly clear. Life in ancient Egypt is not romantic. It is not the glamorous world often portrayed in movies. For ordinary people, it is a life built upon effort. Relentless effort. Every meal depends upon labor. Every shelter depends upon labor. Every aspect of civilization depends upon labor. The magnificent temples that future generations will admire. The towering monuments that will inspire wonder. The thriving cities that line the Nile. All of them exist because countless ordinary people spend their lives working. As the sun finally begins to sink toward the horizon, workers return home. Their bodies are tired. Their hands are rough. Their muscles ache. Tomorrow, they will do it all again. And if you had been transported into their world, there is a very good chance you would already be struggling. Not because you lack determination. Not because you lack intelligence. But because your body simply isn't accustomed to this kind of life. Ancient Egypt demanded strength, endurance, and resilience every single day. And as difficult as the work may be, another challenge awaits. One that affects every person, regardless of age or occupation. The heat. Because surviving the Egyptian sun is a battle all its own. As another day begins along the Nile, the world seems calm and inviting. The early morning air is cool. A gentle breeze moves through the reeds along the riverbank. Birds glide across the sky as fishermen prepare their boats and farmers gather their tools. For a brief moment, ancient Egypt feels almost comfortable. But the people around you know something important. This comfort will not last. Within a few hours, the sun will transform the landscape. The temperature will rise. The air will grow heavy. The ground will radiate heat. And everyone will once again be reminded that one of the greatest challenges of life in ancient Egypt is not an invading army, a dangerous animal, or even a deadly disease. It is the climate itself. Modern people often underestimate the power of heat. After all, most of us spend much of our lives protected from the elements. If the weather becomes uncomfortable, we simply step indoors. We turn on a fan. We adjust a thermostat. We drive an air-conditioned vehicle. Ancient Egyptians had no such luxury. The weather was not something they escaped. It was something they endured. As the sun climbs higher into the sky, you begin to feel its effects. The warmth of the morning slowly becomes uncomfortable. Then uncomfortable becomes exhausting. Before long, every movement requires more effort than before. Your clothing begins to stick to your skin. Sweat drips from your forehead. Even standing still feels demanding. The people around you continue working, but they do so with an understanding born from generations of experience. They know when to seek shade. They know how to conserve energy. They know how to survive. You do not. For a modern visitor suddenly transported to ancient Egypt, the heat would likely become one of the first serious obstacles. Many regions of Egypt experience extremely high temperatures, particularly during the summer months. While exact temperatures varied throughout history just as they do today, conditions could easily become dangerous for anyone working outdoors for extended periods. And nearly everyone worked outdoors. As our journey through ancient Egypt draws to a close, the sun begins its final descent beyond the western horizon. The sky glows with shades of gold, orange, and deep crimson. The waters of the Nile reflect the fading light like a ribbon of molten bronze stretching into the distance. Palm trees sway gently in the evening breeze. The sounds of the village grow quieter as families gather together after another long day. It is a peaceful scene. And yet, after everything we have experienced, it is impossible to look at ancient Egypt in quite the same way. When most people think of Egypt, they imagine the pyramids. They imagine golden treasures hidden within tombs. They imagine powerful pharaohs ruling over vast kingdoms. They imagine magnificent temples covered with carvings and statues that have survived for thousands of years. Those images are not wrong. Ancient Egypt truly was one of the greatest civilizations in human history. Its architects built monuments that still inspire wonder. Its artists created breathtaking works that continue to fascinate archaeologists and historians. Its engineers mastered techniques that were astonishing for their time. Its rulers governed a civilization that endured for more than 3,000 years. But behind every monument stood countless ordinary people. Farmers, fishermen, craftsmen, laborers, mothers, children. People whose names have been forgotten by history. People whose daily struggles made the achievements of Egypt possible. As we have discovered, life for the average Egyptian was far from easy. Each morning began before sunrise. People slept in simple homes built from mud brick. They worked long hours beneath an unforgiving sun. They carried water by hand. They produced food through constant physical labor. Every day demanded effort. Every day demanded endurance. For many modern people, the physical demands alone would be overwhelming. Our world has become increasingly comfortable. Machines perform many tasks for us. Technology simplifies daily life. Convenience surrounds us almost everywhere we go. Ancient Egyptians possessed none of these advantages. Survival required strength. It required discipline. It required resilience. And even then, success was never guaranteed. The Nile provided life, but it also brought uncertainty. Its annual floods could create abundance or hardship. Its waters nourished crops while also carrying disease. Its riverbanks offered opportunity while hiding dangerous animals. The very source of Egypt's prosperity could also become a source of danger. Food was another constant concern. While bread, beer, fish, fruits, and vegetables sustained the population, meals were often simple and repetitive. Harvest failures could threaten entire communities. Famine was never an impossible outcome. The security that many people enjoy today simply did not exist. Then there was the heat. The relentless Egyptian sun shaped every aspect of life. People organized their routines around it. They built homes designed to reduce its effects. They wore clothing suited to the climate. Yet no amount of preparation could eliminate its power entirely. The environment itself became a daily challenge. And perhaps most frightening of all were the dangers that could not always be seen. Disease spread silently. A small wound could become life-threatening. A fever could prove fatal. A child might fall ill without warning. Medical knowledge in ancient Egypt was impressive for its era, but it remained limited by the understanding of the time. Many illnesses remained beyond anyone's ability to cure. For a modern visitor suddenly transported into this world, the combination of physical labor, heat, disease, limited food variety, and unfamiliar living conditions would create enormous challenges. Most people imagine they would adapt quickly. The reality is likely very different. Within days, exhaustion would set in. The climate would feel oppressive. The workload would seem endless. Even routine tasks would become difficult. Surviving a full week would require far more than curiosity and determination. It would require a complete adjustment to an entirely different way of life. Yet despite all these hardships, there is something remarkable about the people of ancient Egypt. They endured. Generation after generation, they adapted to their environment and built a civilization that would outlast countless others. They transformed a narrow ribbon of fertile land into one of history's greatest kingdoms. They created art, architecture, literature, religion, and traditions that continue to captivate people thousands of years later. Their accomplishments become even more impressive when viewed through the lens of their daily struggles. The pyramids are extraordinary. But perhaps even more extraordinary are the ordinary people who made them possible. The farmers who grew the food. The laborers who moved the stone. The craftsmen who shaped the monuments. The families who lived, worked, and survived along the banks of the Nile. As darkness settles over the land, the stars begin to appear above the desert. The village grows quiet. Cooking fires burn low. The sounds of the day slowly fade away. Somewhere in the distance, the gentle waters of the Nile continue their endless journey northward, just as they have for thousands of years. And as you leave ancient Egypt behind and return to the modern world, perhaps you carry with you a new appreciation for the challenges faced by those who came before us. A deeper understanding of their resilience. And a reminder that behind every great civilization are ordinary people whose perseverance shaped the course of history. Thank you for joining this journey through ancient Egypt. And as the Nile flows quietly beneath the moonlit sky, may you rest peacefully, knowing that tonight, unlike the people of ancient Egypt, you can sleep with the comforts of the modern world close at hand. Good night.